Wonderful. Thank you so much, Siddharth, for this very opportunity for Arted. This is great to connect, especially with you after a very long time. And we are very honored and pleased to have expert like you to be part of Atmanirbhar Kalakaar event by Arted. The very idea of this event also is to introduce artists with a lot of basics and a lot of trends and advances that we see in respective spaces and field, right? Especially artists these days are challenged with a lot of with the very COVID situation itself is also kind of given an opportunity, but at the same time, they lack a lot of skills and the way to how to discover and how to present to the other side of the world, right? So I think that's one of the reasons why we kind of launched all the series of workshops. We started off with financial planning, then we did a lot of personality soft skills, and then about we are conducting a lot on the tech apps, productivity tools, and there's a lot on the business management and entrepreneurship, and then we have marketing today, then we are also having banking and insurance workshops. So that's also to kind of give and introduce them to the things that happen in the other side, and that way at least going forward they have a fair understanding of what kind of future we're entering in, right? So I think on that note, marketing is a very core and integral for an artist, right? So a lot of artists now are part of the so-called digital space. They are the ones who are in a way running the show. So it becomes very important, especially for the freelancers, to understand the nitty-gritties, the nuances, the kind of advances that tech and various apps have given opportunities also. On we also want to understand how in your day-to-day, how at Amazon, also, I mean, Amazon being the leader in so many spaces, especially with a lot of support that Amazon offers for the content creators, the freelancers, the artists in different ways, be it on the logistics, be on the marketplace, be on the content space, on the Prime music. I think there's tremendous things that Amazon offers, right? So we I think would be good to understand how that works with you at Amazon, and also from your learnings day in day out, how you are used to the how do you support as an artist yourself, what is your stand on marketing, and what do you see the opportunities in current social media, and what do you anticipate the models that can be taken up by artists, right, so that they can become self-reliant. So that's what this is all about. With that said, once again, thank you so much for accepting and being part of the show. A brief introduction to all the attendees about our speaker, Siddharth Sriram is a wonderful vocalist himself, and he has been currently heading online marketing at Amazon. And previous to that, he has done several, he has experience in the space of digital marketing. And I'm sure we have a lot of learnings today on this very agenda of what marketing means, how marketing is integral part of artists. So I equally look forward for this opportunity and a lot of insights from this session, Siddharth. So that's it. Thank you so much once again. I will open this forum to you. Please help us enlighten what's actually happening in marketing, and what do we you think how artists should take up marketing very closely for their enhancement, their skill development, and the growth of business, right? So we will maybe have 15-20 minutes presentation from you, and then we can open up for the audience to ask any questions, or we can pitch in on further topics of discussions.
Okay, awesome. Before I begin, thanks, Abhijit. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. And I don't mean it as tokenism, but it's kind of the first time I'm teaching, and I hope to be useful in some way. One of the big reasons, and we go back personally as well, doing our engineering together. So I think it's a divine intervention that you gave me a call after many years, and I was happy to take it up. I also think one of the key reasons I had taken up marketing was to be useful at some point in time for small businesses or artists or entrepreneurs, and that kind of use that kind of knowledge for them, and maybe even myself at some point in time if I, let's say, want to start a musical career. So today, like you said, we will talk about some of those aspects and topics. I'm not keeping the discussion only around Amazon. I would because I think the context will be more useful if we take examples that are more relevant, while I keep touching upon the learnings that I've taken from Amazon throughout, right?
Absolutely. No,
So
that's the very idea also. we have all kinds of artists, all genres of artists. I think it would also be a good, it is also something as a, a lot of beginners are taking up marketing. I think from that range of audience to the pros, the celebrities are already, aggressively driving marketing for all their
Yeah.
upselling. I think that
Yeah.
would be good to take on that direction. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Abhijit, I think the screen share option is, it says it's disabled again, or am I doing something wrong? Maybe I can check it.
You should have now. Can you try once?
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
able to see?
Yes, we see this.
Okay. So I'm just trying to see how I can make this. Yeah. So once again, thanks everyone for taking the time. I see some of you have joined now, and at any point in time, if you think that it's getting hard to understand, or if you have any questions, you can probably put it in the chat window, or we can take it at the end. But feel free to like ask at any point in time. Um, so like we discussed, we will begin the discussion around how online marketing is going to be useful for all of you, right? The artists of today and tomorrow. And I'm sure each one of you has probably dabbled in it in a big way at your level. And you would have seen some success, and maybe you're curious about how do you take it to the next level. So a lot of the discussion today will be around uh, keeping that in mind. One of the things is, and before I dive deeper into tools, etc., I just wanted to break a myth, so to say, that I think today marketing, especially online marketing, uh, is really needs to be demystified. People think of it as a lot of tools that need to be mastered for us to be able to
Right.
as customer first, right?
Right.
Uh, that's something that's universal, whether it is offline or online. And that's one of the things that you would have always heard Amazon say, that everything we do keeping the customer in mind first. Um, so in the context of artists, and even for me personally, I thought it's really important for us to know who we are, what story do we want to tell, what is it that we are trying to sell, what is it that sets us apart. That becomes critical, because only then would it be interesting for an audience to kind of get to know us in the long term, right? So I thought I'd take a couple of examples here, and I'm happy to hear from the audience here as well if you want to share some of your insights. But I don't know how many of you here would have heard of this brand called Forest Essentials. It is a luxury beauty brand, but I would say the only luxury beauty brand, or the first one to be on the global uh, roadmap, right? So for the longest time, you would be aware that luxury brands in the space of beauty were completely dominated by Europe and the US.
Right.
Uh, but Forest Essentials did a great job of telling the India story, right? There were a lot of people out there who really believed in Ayurveda, a lot of women who wanted to take the benefits out of Ayurveda, of what their mother, of what their grandmother would have taught them while they were growing up. And they really wanted to spend on that, but at the same point in time, they found it hard because there was no brand out there that was able to satisfy that. So Forest Essentials came in, and I did some kind of research to see if the person who started it came with a background of marketing or any of those trainings. But I was indeed to see that it actually it was started by an entrepreneur, a lady who had no prior business experience, and the thing that worked for her was she really believed in her story and believed in the product. And a lot of the learning that came in was iterative, in the sense that you start something, you learn from what your customers are saying, you build on it, you get better. So that's the kind of iterative process that not just big brands, but even we as artists, I would recommend that we start to look in that direction, right? A lot of us, like I said, have already started, would have started pages, would have started to create products or services,
Right.
uh, it's easy to get discouraged by putting something out there and seeing that the feedback is not great, and then like not, and this just stopping there. I
Right.
think the more important thing is to fail fast, learn from there, and get better at it. Uh, and in that regard, it's also important to take the audience behind the scenes. I was telling you, Abhijit, when we were speaking last week about if I had to talk about, let's say, starting my own YouTube channel tomorrow.
Right.
Uh, the wrong way for me to approach it, as let's say as a musician, would be for me to create, let's say, 10 amazing original songs, and I only put those 10 over the period of the next year. While that's part of the story, that's great, but I think also taking the audience behind the scenes and telling them about my struggles when it comes to composing a song,
Right.
or finding a lyricist, or really struggling with ideas, etc., because
Right.
that's the story I want to tell, and I want to make the audience a part of that journey. And when we say online marketing, a lot of this is possible today, which was not possible in earlier times. You will not know about the struggles of SP Balasubramaniam or anyone else when they were kind of getting there, right? So that's
Absolutely.
what the digital economy has helped us to get to. And in
Maybe
that
to
regard,
just
I thought there
to
was
get
another.
the
Sorry.
perspective right, is it's
Yes.
something like know the filmmaking process before the movie gets out or the trailer, right? Just that you start
Yeah.
relating and be part of their journey as well, right? I remember KGF did that,
Yeah.
and it was magnanimous the way Bahubali and KGF connected right in the beginning of the process. It helped
Yeah.
them to carry along. All right,
Yeah.
yeah, got it.
Like just on that, that's a good example. And even at Amazon, right? A lot of these, we see a lot of these sellers starting new brands, or creating new products in spaces which are really untapped. Let's say, for example, furniture. Furniture is, yes, is one space where there are a lot of brands. But there's still a lot of potential for unknown brands to kind of come in and make their mark. Um, so the brands that are doing a good job, of course, they have a great product. It starts from having a great product, but they did such an incredible job of showing how the furniture was created in the first place, where were the wood sourced from, what is their philosophy, what is their testing philosophy, what are our other customers saying about it, etc. So it's all about taking everyone behind the scenes, telling a story, and even better, eventually reaching a place where other customers are so passionate about your story that they're also talking about it, right? So through the course of the next few minutes, we'll talk about how we could potentially look to get there. And I'll come to this example towards the end. This is an example that I saw on Kickstarter. That's a crowdsourcing kind of website for ideas. And at the end of the day, if I look at it, it's all it is a dairy planner,
Right.
right? Which we always used to get it even before, which is at the end of every year, your company gives you these, yearly calendars or diaries, and that's about it.
Right.
You can see over there, she managed, Ridhisha, she managed to raise $58,000 behind this, right? And there's a story behind it, and that's one of the big reasons why. There's a lot of passion, there's a lot of thinking and effort that's gone into building the story and building a product, therefore. So I'll come back to this on what exactly it is and how it's probably worked, and that's one of the ideas that we can probably take away at the end of this call and discuss.
Okay.
Um, so yes, the second one is about, we started with discovering your own story,
Right.
which is more of an introspective thing of, as an artist, as a musician, as a writer, what is it that I stand for, and what is the difference that I want to create,
Right.
right? But the second thing is, or it's actually debatable. I don't know if this is the first thing or the second thing, but knowing your audience is equally important, right? So again, if this is what I really, it was hard for me to kind of grapple with, even at Amazon, or even when there's a lot of friends of mine from B school who have actually started to become artists,
Right.
and they've left behind their corporate jobs, etc. And in
Right.
my discussions with them, the one thing that we've all kind of struggled to come around and eventually concluded is that when you think of an audience as a mass of people,
Right.
let's say millions of people or thousands of people, it's hard to relate with them. it's hard to understand them. So I think the tip there is for us to think of the audience as one person. So if I'm creating a product or a service for like a Monica or a Vidhi or Prashant,
Right.
and I know Prashant really well or I know Vidhi really well,
Right.
then I will put a lot more context and purpose and effort into it, and they will also relate a lot more with that. So I think that was the number one kind of takeaway overall. And yeah, even for Amazon, as big as it is, there is that intent to always keep listening to customer calls and keep learning from it. And if there's any kind of complaint, see that as an opportunity to not just resolve that complaint, but get better as a company, right? So that's one of the things overall. So here, what is that person? What do they like? What do they do for fun? And what are the things that matter to them, right? So that becomes critical and key. And only once you know that will you be able to develop a voice, right? And developing a voice might sound like a technical thing. We look to demystify this, but essentially, like when we say voice, we talk about how you look and feel online, how your messaging looks and feels online, and what is the language that you're using when you're communicating, right? For example, if you talk to your grandmother on the phone, it'll be different from the way you talk to your brother or to your son. But at the end of the day, it's still essentially you, right? So just having that kind of voice that is able to talk, but at the same time, it is important for everyone to know that this is the brand that this voice belongs to. So I've just taken an example here. Nobody knows this brand, right? But if you were exposed to this often enough and long enough across touch points, whether it's on a website or an Instagram page or anywhere else, I think if you kept getting exposed to this over a period of time, just from the design consistency of things, you will start to feel that, okay, this belongs to a particular brand, just the way it looks and feels, just the kind of tone that's out there, the messaging that's out there. Um, so I think that's one of probably the most important things that we need to establish before we set out as an artist, about what is it like, even for you, Abhijit, right? Arted, what does it look like? How does the logo look? How does that manifest in terms of color palettes? What are the kinds of videos out there, and what's the kind of filters you'll use for each of those videos, right?
Right.
All of
Right.
those kind of become small but important things in the long run that help maintain consistency over a period of time. And there's in this regard, I thought there is a website called Canva, which is really useful. I found it really useful when I was trying to dabble in a few things.
Right.
The reason I think it's useful is because you don't need to know things like Adobe Illustrator or any of the other tools that are design intensive.
Right.
Um,
Right.
it is it is just a tool for any normal person like you, me, or like our parents, even to uh, just drag and drop and build a really good kind of visual identity.
True.
So visual identity is just one part of it. An equally important part is about the tone, right? So if I'm starting a YouTube channel that's going to be playful, that's going to be different from if I want to be seen as someone who is authoritative about medical sciences.
Right.
Over there, I don't want to be a playful guy, right? So it's important to know what kind of tone that you're looking to kind of set overall as a brand.
Right.
So another example is just finding a theme instead of repeating the same images and words. So as a brand, I've seen a lot of times, and a lot of times we are kind of repeating and rehashing the same set of things,
Right.
but that's not the kind of ideal way to do it, because think of it as you talk to your friends on WhatsApp every day,
Right.
right? You
Right.
don't say the same exact thing every day,
Right.
but it is around a similar set of topics and context, right? So the way you're talking to your friends and family members every day is the way a brand or you as an artist need to be kind of speaking to on a regular basis with your audience, right? And this is probably the most challenging part. How do you find and create content for the full year, and ensure that you're doing it in a sustained manner that makes it easy for customers to identify that it is you, and also keeps it interesting and non-repetitive, right? There's no easy answer to this, but I guess this is where we are all kind of learning as we go overall.
Right,
Uh,
right, right.
so yes, when I started, I said it's important to think of the brand as one person.
Mhm.
I think in that regard, this is a useful exercise to take, which is, if you've already started a channel, the best way to see whether you're consistent in your tone, your voice, in your overall marketing efforts is by looking at the ones that have got the posts or any of the other activities that have got the maximum engagement or maximum reach. The ones that have not really got that kind of reach or engagement, and then seeing how you can learn, how do you double down on the ones that have done really well and do lesser of things that have not really worked for you, right? So just that kind of a secondary research is something that becomes critical as we go. I think this is the one part everyone's probably most interested in, because this is the big challenge.
Right.
There's potentially millions and billions of people out there, and yet we struggle to get hundreds of followers, right? Um,
So,
in that regard, I just want to pause and like mention that the one thing that big companies can do that artists cannot do, that artists can do, right, is that an artist can find their own tribe of hundreds and thousands of people and create that connection and build that connection and maintain that connection. A huge brand or a huge company will find it very difficult to do that, right? For a big company, it is only going to be 100 more people, so let me not waste so much time and effort around it. Let me focus on the people already out there. But as an artist, that's the opportunity area, right? There's equal opportunity for everyone out there, all the artists and all the huge brands to kind of coexist and do well. It's all about, like I said, knowing what you stand for, knowing what your audience stand for. And now it is all about how do you reach that kind of audience. They don't even know that you exist today. How do you find ways in which they get to know you, right? And the important thing in this regard is grow your fans, is the way I would put it. I think the when you say audience, the one thing that everyone loves to do is get into clickbait mode. That hey, I have 100 followers, let's say on my Facebook page today. I want to reach 20,000 or 1 lakh followers, and let me pay like crazy to someone to kind of get there, and let me have a lot of bots to get there. Let me uh, I mean, if I take an example, if my music channel is all about jazz music, which will be of interest to a particular geography in Europe, but all I'm targeting is the middle age and elderly people across India. Um, it's a wasted kind of effort there. And even if they follow you, they are not going to come back every day to engage and be interested in what you have to say. So it's important. Just the point that I'm trying to make is it's better for you to have 1,000 really really engaged fans versus 15,000 okay fans, or like not even fans, don't even really care about you. So
right.
we'll find ways in which how we can identify and get to build that connection with fans as we go. You had some question, Vijay?
No, no. I think the point that you just said about having quality fans is more important than the quantity. I think it has played a significant role for several companies, or especially in the
Yeah.
startups, right? Because the kind of engagement, the kind of conversion, the kind of monetization that happens with the loyal ones plays more role, or your focus also. Especially if you're
Yeah.
lean, if you're just starting, I think that actually
Yeah.
drives the business itself, right? So on that note, I think I cannot agree with more than that.
Yeah, I mean, an example that I could relate with is I don't know if most of you have probably heard of him today. Is this popular author called James Clear, but he became popular only in the last 3 to 4 years, I would say. I used to follow him as a blogger 12 years ago, and it was like from the day literally he began. All he did was. He's all about building good habits. So he was like, I don't care about whether I become popular tomorrow. All I want to do is write a good article, good blog post every day about good habits. So a guy who's talking about good habits is doing that every day, and it was great to see that just with that habit of putting something out there every day, he was able to reach where he has reached today, where he's a New York Times best-selling author. Uh, Overall, but just the way he went out about building it was he kept putting quality content out there every day, which became subsequently twice a week, and then it kind of reduced to once a month. uh, but he built his audience through the email kind of channel. So we'll come to how do we reach a new audience and how do we keep them coming back. But one of the channels to keep customers coming back to you is email. That's important. And yes, of course, eventually he's monetized all his audience attention
Right.
by selling books. He speaks in seminars, etc. So this is like the ultimate gold standard of how I would consider him also as an artist. He was a writer,
Absolutely.
and today he's an author full time.
Right.
So that's like the kind of road that everyone aspires to. But I like this message of starting small and just being focused on inputs and letting outputs take care of itself, right?
Right.
So yes, so I think the one big question is when we start out with a service or a product,
Right.
we have said everything. We have, let's say, an album or a book ready, or any of those lines. Where do we start marketing them? Should we start a YouTube channel, Facebook, Insta, Twitter, Sound? There's like so many more that I've not put here. Uh, but the way to figure this out is it completely depends on your business and your audience. With where is that intersection maximum? So tomorrow, if you are starting a beauty business or a fashion business, the places where it's likely that the audience will connect with you and you'll be able to find them is Instagram, for example, right? Because it's a very visual medium. It has a lot of young audience, and if your fashion is all about connecting with that kind of a young audience, etc., then it would be Instagram. If I take another example, if you have to build authority as a B2B marketer, right, then you create all of that content, but Instagram is not really the best place. A Twitter or a LinkedIn or a SlideShare would be those places, and of course YouTube as well. So it's all about, like, before you set out, I'm spending some time here because when I was trying to set things up, this was the first question I had to grapple with, that there are 20,000 channels out there. How do I start all of them and maintain all of them? What's important is to start small, choose one or two, and be consistent with those instead of spreading yourself too wide and kind of losing the motivation to continue over a period of time. So just again, look at it as a way in which you can bond with your audience every day, to be able to understand them, hear from them, etc. So the other thing about online marketing is, which is different versus offline, is that it's a conversation. You're not a salesman. I remember when I started in this journey of online marketing, I don't know if it was my mother or someone else, asked, like, will you actually be going door to door and selling stuff? And the answer was like, no, we won't go door to door and do that, but we will talk to them online, and see how comfortable they feel, right? It's just enabling that kind of two-way conversation. That's the clincher.
True.
So I think, yes, this is the other interesting aspect, and this is where it gets really technical and people start to get overwhelmed. And maybe if any of you is interested, we can have more in-depth discussions as separate forums on paid marketing tools and how do you basically look to uh, dive deeper and optimize and scale, etc. But I just wanted to touch the surface kind of principles of paid marketing, right? Because until now, what we were talking was completely organic. You didn't have to spend except maybe on content creation. But often what happens is, when you are trying to build organically, the only thing that you're leaning on is how good your content is or how good your story is. And how much your customers are talking or your audience is talking about you, right? So these are the ones. And in an ideal scenario, these are so good that you don't even need to do any kind of paid marketing. But in a more like, if we come back to reality, I think we are always left wanting for more. Um, so there's no harm in trying to spend a little and see how it works. And I can give a few examples on how that goes. So the first question is, how much do we spend on paid marketing, and how do we basically get started? Right. So it's important to know what your goal is with paid marketing before you set out. If you are a channel which is already at scale, you have a lot of followers, subscribers, etc., then your objective of paid marketing is just more to engage with your existing audience and drive conversions, right? But if you are someone who's just setting out, you want newer kind of followers, then your objective is traffic, or getting more video views, or just driving that awareness, right? So there are kind of different terminologies that are used for both these kinds of objectives, like CPC and CPM. That's where it gets technical. But like, without going into all the details, what I would encourage you all to do is, let's say you're already there on YouTube and Google. Each one of them has an ad manager, right? You can get to the ad manager, whatever money you're comfortable with. You can start putting that in, let's say 3,000, 5,000, even 1,000 or 500. You can start as small as possible. And choose the objective that you want. Do you want to optimize for CPC or CPM? And again, CPM is like cost per 1,000 impressions, which is where it's all about awareness. So it's more like a TV ad. Like, I want 1,000 people to see it. I don't care who they are. But then that's cheaper versus CPC, which is like, I care about who they are and whether or not they click. So only once they click, will I pay, right? So CPC is more efficient, cost per click is more efficient, but it is like harder to get to and generally more like kind of expensive if you look at the reach it brings. But just taking a step back, I think it's intuitive enough. Each of these tools on Facebook, Google, Instagram, the way a lot of my I mean, I'm talking about artists, right? A lot of my friends have started out to scale is by just putting 3 to 4,000. I can take an example. I did a collaboration video with a friend of mine where Hindi, which went as a video. And then he was like, okay, let me see if I can um, reach the South Indian audience and pay for that, and then see how much traction it gets. So he paid close to 4 or 5 thousand, and he was like really surprised by how many followers came in from that. He was able to grow very quickly from very few followers to more than 2,000, 3,000 followers. Though I don't agree with that complete philosophy, because again, it goes back to the point of maybe you should have spent lesser, figured out the exact audience, and then gone ahead and scaled, because now he probably has a big kind of South Indian audience with him, but I don't think he has a plan to put that kind of content out there. And I don't think they're going to really relate with him anymore. Like, a South Indian audience will want to know more songs from Sriram, the singer, in Tamil, from Rahman, from all of them. But what they will instead find is he continues to talk, he continues to put content for a Hindi audience there. Which is why the guidance is like, if we can start small, once you know your audience, you start small, you see which one's working better, which one's worse, and then look to kind of scale that. It's all about failing fast, learning fast, and then growing with paid marketing. The other reason why I emphasize a lot about finding your audience is because paid marketing can get really expensive when you're chasing the wrong audience. Um, you can spend lakhs of rupees to do Facebook ads and Google ads, etc., as well. But if they are not targeted to the audience that might be interested in you, then you will again find a set of really irrelevant folks who are following your channel. And you will only feel dejected that, hey, I have such a huge audience, but nobody's engaging with it. So which is why it's important to, that's why I'm re-emphasizing on that point of knowing your customer and then kind of scaling. And it's hard to know your customer. The advantage of online marketing is that there are so many tools out there to figure these things out. But let's say I have 10 song videos that I've created. There is the intelligence that YouTube and Google give me, or Facebook give me, that hey, I have put these videos out there, I have had some level of reach and views. Who are they? Like, are they more male and female? I mean, what is the age? Where are they coming from? What are the other pages that they follow? And therefore, it goes back to the point of building that customer persona with all that data. And then you're like, okay, this person's more like Abhijit. So therefore, now let me, whatever content I create, I'll create it keeping Abhijit in mind. Right. So that's the kind of, and then even when it comes to paid marketing, the same principle applies. I touched on this point earlier. I think a lot, like, this is more personal, and feel free to completely reject this idea. But I think a lot of places where artists probably could do better is by investing in their own website and a newsletter program. Because often, when, let's say, you're completely dependent on YouTube or completely dependent on Facebook, they keep changing their algorithms, and therefore you never know how things are going to be tomorrow. Or let's say there's a new social platform tomorrow, which is the big in thing. It just gets hard for you to sustain what you've already built. The second reason is it's not as easy today to monetize directly via YouTube or Facebook. So you need to bring them to one place, where you can sell any kind of, let's say, merchandise or any service. So let's say you want to start teaching, all of that. And again, goes back to the example of James Clear that I mentioned, where it becomes important to have your own platform, your own kind of email newsletter subscribers. And let's say once you have a big enough audience, then it's all on you. Once the audience is really keen and interested, if you're a filmmaker, you might even, you don't need to stop with just continuing to create films, but also writing, let's say, an ebook on filmmaking, and you look to sell that, right? So we'll come to it when we talk about basically how to make money. But these are the preconditions for us to get there. Knowing what you stand for, knowing what your audience is, growing your fans, and once you have a stable once you have a stable set of fans that keep coming back, that's when you can really think of making money in a sizable way. Um,
Right.
Before going to this, in fact, if I take the math, if you have 1,000 followers, who are ready to spend 5,000 every month, right? You're getting 50,000 a month from there, and it's not really hard to achieve. Yes, it's a lot of effort, etc., but it's better than trying to get 1 million followers and trying to monetize via ads from your channel. That's a lot harder for you to get to. And yes, we'll discuss more about that. But um, the other way for us to basically grow your fans or following is to do it by partnerships and collaborations. So there will be a lot of fans of yours who will follow other pages. So it's important again for you to see what are the other pages or creators or influencers that your audience members are interested in today. And therefore, that's another opportunity for you to get in front of your audience or that potential audience, right? So let's say the kind of music that I'm creating today is something that will resonate most with Rahman fans. Obviously, it might be impossible for me to do a partnership video with Rahman himself. So I will look for people who follow people who are similar to Rahman in the sense of the content that they create, or other people that audiences interested in Rahman are following, who are in a similar genre, and then look to co-create with them and start from there, right? So a lot of these over here are like cover musicians, and um, they're just basically working with each other to grow their respective fan following. And also it's a win-win, because if I'm a big creator, I am looking for new content as well. So it's like a win-win in that regard.
True. That's true.
Um, The other important thing I would want to emphasize on is I have, again, a lot of examples of content that's created, which is really long. For example, I have a friend who's an amazing guitarist who creates content, but his form of creating content is like a 1 hour long set of guitar solos, etc. Nothing wrong in that, but I think he will find it faster to grow his audience if he also has a version which has like 5 minute or 1 minute content out there, which is also important from an SEO perspective. So the minute you have more content on any platform, the more the chances are for you to be discovered over a period of time as well. And obviously, there is this other point of most of us do not have the patience to listen to or watch or do something beyond a minute or 5 minutes. So I think as long as we are cognizant of that and doing it, I think it makes sense.
Right.
Having said that, not everything has to always be snackable. Again, the example I gave of James Clear is that he used to write articles that are supremely in depth, which will take 20 to 30 minutes to go through and read, but you come back feeling really refreshed. So he really knew his audience. He knew that he does not want the set of audience members who are just looking for a kind of
Good habits.
fashion, right? He was looking for people who believe in the same philosophy that he does, and just find they're just looking for some kind of guidance on how to get there. So that was his brand, that was his story, and he kind of stuck to that. So in my friend's defense, that's what he would tell me, that hey, I do not want the people who are only looking for snackable kind of content. But the general kind of thinking is the more snackable it is, the more the chances that people can discover you over a period of time.
True.
I've not seen the time yet, but this is kind of the last section.
Yeah, we are over time, but yeah, I think you can
Okay.
uh,
I'll probably just
continue
need
with
two
this.
minutes.
Yes, sure.
Yes. Again, if you remember, we spoke about discovering your story, and the important word there is also discovering, because many a time we don't know our own story. And I'm getting a little philosophical here. So it just gets important once you have discovered what is your USP and what you stand for and where you want to make a mark. Um, it's time to put it to test, right? And the easiest way you can do it is by putting something out there on these crowdfunding platforms tomorrow. It could be any idea. It could be an idea for an album or a film project, or let's say a product design, or some course that you're trying to teach. You take everyone completely behind the scenes on why you're doing what you're doing, where you need help, etc. And people can fund you if they believe in your philosophy. And there's no harm if the funding doesn't come in, you can try again with a different kind of idea and inspect on why it went wrong. Maybe you were asking for too much, or maybe you were asking it differently. So these crowdfunding platforms are a great way for you to test the kind of ideas that you have and see how loyal your fans are as well over a period of time. The other one is very simple about selling merchandise or services, or using uh, the platform, the reputation that you've built to get offline leads, right? Again, the friend that I was referring to, his goal was to just kind of reach a certain space, after which he can start to perform in clubs and get paid for every gig that he does. So it completely depends on how you're looking to make money, but these are the various ways in which you can do it. Um, and if you realize, I think this is the last point, which is I think the first line of thought as artists, we think is we need to grow a huge audience and then look to monetize through ads. That's very, very difficult to get to today. So, which is why the emphasis on starting small and then kind of growing from there. And when you are small, when you're still small, you can make money, is the point I'm trying to make, using these kind of methods. So yeah, if there's one kind of mantra, so to say, from today's session, this is what I would leave, which is start small with everything, learn quickly, fail fast, and then look to grow. And I think it's just a series of iterative such steps that will help you get to that next level. I'm sure a lot of you have already started out, are already really successful. And I'm keen to hear from all of you now on your journey, any idea that you have, or any help that you need, and even learning from you from in this regard. So overall, yeah, that's about it. Thanks for the opportunity again. Um,
Wonderful, wonderful, Siddharth. I mean, you comprehensively kind of presented the journey itself. I mean, the way that the marketing has evolved, right from at least speaking of last 10 years to what we see now and what we see ahead. The very idea of marketing is it is getting leaner, right? It is only giving a lot of options for art or everyone for that matter to get more the lean way, be agile. I think speaking from what you just presented, I'll also quickly summarize so that there are already few questions that people may have. They get answers right here, right? I think you fairly presented about. I mean, you emphasized about being lean, start small, be a learner who is very quick and get into implementation, execution, get your customer centric updates and whatnot. And with a very so many platforms, highly driven by algorithms, they change and they kind of give a lot of personalized feeds to everyone. Almost everyone has a different feed, different contents, different kind of products and services against their interests. So it becomes very challenging from individual's perspective as to what to be marketed, what could be the content that can be compelling to every kind of an audience. So there's no straight answer to that. At the same time, the kind of audience we grow over a period of time, it is a mix of all kinds of people, right? Like you also said in the beginning, there is always your parent, there is also some professionals, then there are colleagues, classmates, then there is all the so-called ones that you don't want them in your loop all the time. So I think kind of giving a one message to all is not going to be a fit. So it has to be very specific to each kind of audience that we give. I think one of the uh, very important point is also to know what kind of audience and what kind of platforms we are using. So
yeah.
there was one question about how do you choose your social platform, right? So it also kind of maybe redefines who you are, right? It goes, I mean, when you think of the audience, it also means the kind of product and service also belongs to that audience, and not necessarily they be ones that you're trying to sell all the time. It is like what you just said about conversation, be engaging all the time. It is just like telling good morning to your own family or your own network every day, whether we know that you're going to get it back or not, but there is something that you relate to. That conversation, speaking on the marketing tone, I think that makes that is very important, right? That line of approach is something will actually help you to decide which platform you want to go. Do you want to add a little bit more on that? Because I think ultimately, whether we want to do a paid marketing or not, choosing sometimes the right networks, right platform, right audience itself is halfway through in the marketing, is what I feel. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean, all of the things that we mentioned about researching your audience, finding who else are they following, what kind of content are they generally kind of engaging with, all that is possible only once you're focused on that platform, right? And again, if I take Instagram as an example, there are some media formats that are there that are very specific to that platform. Like Insta Stories is not something that existed on YouTube for the longest time, but now it's kind of slowly coming in there, right? But there is this ephemeral kind of content which never used to exist, but now that's a new content media strategy, that you put something that's out there for 24 hours and then you're gone, right? So it's like really critical to just know where your audience is, and therefore then choose the kind of right media for that. Even when we do marketing for television or outdoor advertising, that's where we begin, right? Who's the audience, and then where are they going to be for the longest amount of time, and then therefore how do we reach them? But the difference is there, it's like a one-way communication. Sure, we have to be cognizant of the communication both ways, right? There you see a TV ad and it's done. Uh, but the hope is they see the TV ad, they then Google it up, they then reach the page, and then they continue the conversation. And that's how we're trying to tie the threads of marketing overall.
Well, I think you said it right. I mean, it again comes down to knowing again who you are, and then likewise reaching out to the right audience. I think that itself is the right skill that most of us have to develop, especially artists. It cannot be generic, at least going forward. What you wear You are again, with the changing trends and times. It's not just only the art. I think I also said this in another meeting, and also that's the way it is, right? It's not only the art that is going to sell, the kind of technology that you work along, and also the kind of marketing, the kind of tools, everything is going to be a package, right? So let's quickly for a minute or two do a quick response from you to know on what your thoughts in a word or a sentence is, right? That way we kind of get high level of inputs on each areas in marketing. So what is branding to you?
Branding is you are you asking for one word or
One word or a sentence that just so that it
branding is branding is just telling a story,
getting a story. Okay. What is market research?
listening to customers.
Okay. How important, or so what would be the easiest way of organic
Easiest way of organic.
marketing or organic reach?
It'll be to build content that is so good that your customers want to keep sharing it because it makes them look good.
Okay. How important is social media?
As important as offline human one-to-one conversations.
And given a scenario, would you prefer more of online marketing, or only online marketing, or a hybrid model, or completely offline marketing?
Okay, if I didn't hear all of it, but your question I think was, would you prefer only online or online and offline or more offline?
Right.
Is that like I said, it's a complete 360-degree marketing that we are getting into over a period of time. And the beautiful thing about online is that it helps you close the loop, understand who you're talking to, have a conversation. So
Right.
it'll be more and more about offline also starting to look like online, right? Your billboards, your TV ads will all be about, hey, can you tell me more, or what do you want to see for the next part of the story? How do you interact more with it?
Wonderful. All right. Maybe one last thing is about, it is always about how do I get my conversions? How do I get paying customers, right? At the end, when we talk of an artist or a product or a service for any business, that becomes important. So I know the traditional has been look for producers when it comes to especially the full makers and whatnot. So now that we are in the world of online platforms, social media, there's a huge potential to kind of generate revenues with your own Facebook pages, your own groups, right? That being the kind of avenues. It is not necessary to focus more on the technical side, uh, or the technologies around it. It is
Yeah,
very important to build the content and the story around what your product and service is, right? So that becomes
yeah.
very important to know and build stories around it. The very question that comes is every day, it's the kind of people, the kind of content is being consumed and being available online. Somehow it takes away your content off from the track. So keeping that consistency, what would be the one factor, what would be the one thing that artists should focus on so that they are consistent in creating content and reaching to the right audience?
It's a great question because I think one of the big challenges would be it is hard for everyone to do everything. So the way I would look at it is it's completely okay to take help from friends who are experts in that field. So if I have to start something out tomorrow, I will take the help of anyone who's in the design field and make them like a equal co-creator or someone who co-owns the business or the page, so to say. I would take the help of videographers and just see how. So basically, the parts that are not your core competency, just take help to get at least get started. And then once you're good enough, you can probably look at taking professional help. But that will be the part about because the minute we try being really good at everything, that becomes hard. Because at the end of the day, artists are all about their core talent and needing to spend time on refining their own craft, whether it's writing or music or anything else. And if the other work is taking the time away from the core craft, I think that's not something artists would really prefer in the long run as well. I mean, that could be just my philosophy, but yeah.
Okay. No, that's really sounding great as well. I mean, it's a good input. It is just on the individual also to look into what their approach would be. Ultimately, that will also redefine what their strategy should be. Right. So now we
Yeah.
have a couple of questions down in the chat. Let me read out one. How do you make your audience engage better with you, assuming they are loyal and quality followers? Does having compelling posts with clear CTAs help? Uh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oji.
good question. So I think once you have a loyal audience, it's important to not keep selling to them because then that will only drive them away. It's important to keep offering value for free and then saying that, hey, in case you're interested in this service, maybe you can buy or maybe you can spend something.
Right.
But like for me, that example that resonated the most with me was I would look forward to newsletters from James Clear. I would look forward to new content from this artist because I find it really intriguing and entertaining or valuable. It's useful in my own life. So I think the benchmark should be how can you be of service to the customers you already have and bring value to their life consistently, and then from time to time you're like, okay, I have this new thing that's going on, maybe you can help me out. And obviously because you have helped them out for the longest time, they will not hesitate to do that. And that's why things like email newsletters, it could be the means doesn't matter so much. It could be through email newsletters, it could be through your own social media posts or YouTube. uh, but a lot of it will be about creating value for them and also making them more included in the thing. If I create more content tomorrow, let's say I'm a popular, not popular, but just like an artist who's starting out, and I have a few like people who really like my work, if let's say they're also featured in some of the work that I do in future, let's say I ask them for lyrics and I look to make songs out of those,
Right.
etc., etc. So, just making them part of your story as well.
I think we are in that era, whether we agree or not. There is one side of people also. This it can be a more on a funny side. अरे जिंदगी तो कम हो गया एटलीस्ट जितना जल्दी करना है किसी के साथ भी करो जल्दी निकल के जाओ. There's a lot of monetization of this, lot of tons of opportunities. How much can one do, right? If you think of you want to be an OTT star, do it. TV star, go for it. Events offline, online. So time बहुत कम है. Then so that also is another way to tell, just go collaborate, use leverage whatever is there, and you don't have to
Yeah.
really hang on the traditional way of मैं सब कुछ करूंगा, and not anymore. At least I mean this would apply for anything. I mean for that you may not be an artist, even for our daily life we are like that. You need to have that marriage going with
Yeah.
everyone, right? Anyway, so
Yeah.
that being one of the, I mean, good response, thanks again on that. Bhavna, can you please elaborate on your third point? I think second one is already covered. Can you kind of speak and elaborate, please? I mean, I couldn't really
Could
get.
you repeat my third point? I'm not sure what I've posted.
Wonderful. All right, so this is a question about, for someone who writes good copies with a good brand voice, is a MBA from top tier institute necessary to advance in career? Well, if that's a question, I my personal view is, we I don't know anymore any degrees is going to be helpful. At least from Siddharth's perspective, I know Amazon, the worlds of so-called MNCs have given up the credits of hiring from the best MBAs, unless there are few areas. But otherwise, what is your say on this, Siddharth?
If I understood the question correctly, it's about do we need to have those degrees to be good at what we do at marketing? Is that the question?
No, like for somebody who's good at writing copies and branding. So is an MBA necessary to advance in career? One, like two, is it preferred by industry? And three, like what exactly does a B school? What exactly is the takeaway from a B school? For such a field.
Okay, so for something like copy, marketing, etc., it depends. The answer is it depends. Uh, but if I take Amazon as an example, there are both kinds of marketing professionals: people who've come out of B schools and people who've taken the route of copywriting at an ad agency for a few years and then getting into an FMCG company and then coming kind of to Amazon. So it's not like a prerequisite that everyone looks for that they must be from a B school, especially for the field of marketing, because like you can see from today's discussion, digital is something that's so new. people are like, okay, we just want people who have skills in that field and see how we can kind of get jumpstart from there. The objective of doing an MBA is, I mean, also about having those connections. So what ends up happening is once you have done your MBA, then it's easier for you to, let's say, leverage those connections and see if you can get a job in a different kind of company. And of course, you pay a lot for a B school as well overall. So it will be about the trade-offs, etc. Are they worth it? But there are a lot of people who have done traditional advertising, design roles, and then grown up the ranks to become like marketing professionals in big organizations.
No, I think if you have seen the trends, right, the very trend in last 1 year, most of the companies have they are preferring skills over the degrees. If that's one of the way to tell as a response, right? I mean that applies to artists even more because they are freelancers. A lot of artists have grown or learned from their own traditional learnings, right? A lot of musicians I know of come from a very traditional learning, but their contents are sold better than the so-called well-known artist who is already into OTT or a music director. So there are several such people, and now in professional companies also they value that. They have seen if there is a conversion, if there is a way to leverage certain artists of any background or any skills, they are ready to do it. And now it has become even more easy for MNCs to collaborate with artists for every smallest content creation, because I work with some of the companies as well. So a lot of content creators are hardly 16, 17 years olders. A lot of social media companies that are actually using as influencer marketing, because these people carry followers. These people are trendsetters. The way their contents are actually driving them a lot of traffic. I think that's what they care about. So look, there are two sides. Are you really going to be earning money, or you're doing for fun? So even that kind of a logic will help you to decide on whether you want to take up some degrees, certification, because there are tags attached to it. So answer, at least going forward, I think that trend of making it mandatory is reducing. Um, of course, it has already begun in US, but yes, in India, I think it will take some time. But for looking in the way direction we are already into it, I don't think that would be mandatory. But it's always about win-win. If there is really excellent out of the world things that is coming that in universities to offer, why not? It's also about learning. All right. So one last question, if we have from anyone else, we can take uh, today. So I don't think any more questions coming in, Siddharth. So well,
Yeah, no worries.
no, it's also because I think you kind of, again, you took very well on the complete journey of an artist, right from understanding some of the aspects as why we should actually go for paid marketing. It's also important that you lay a foundation, grow your audience, try scaling up, see some visibility, and then actually invest in it. Because a lot of artists, they start the day they start their page. I have seen several artists, they want to start paid marketing. They want to have millions of customer in 2 days because their fellow colleague is already 3 million, right? It's that trend is also killing the very idea of why others should take up marketing. Anyway, that being aside, uh, thanks for wonderful inputs. Lot of them inputs are something that can be go get grabber of inputs. I think everyone is going to try some of the basics, some of the opportunities that is already there in the platforms, and more important to that is some homework to understand who they are, what the kind of artists they are, what kind of skills, backgrounds they can drive, what kind of network they build, and then add more relevant of either technology or resources so that they can scale further. Right, with that said, I think once again, thank you so much. You covered very insightful, you brought in a lot of insightful uh, pointers. uh, Closing remarks from you, Siddharth. Anything that you wish to add?
Uh, I think I've already taken enough time, so I've just hoped that it was a useful session, and if it helps anyone in any way kickstart their journey or amplify the journey they're already on, I'll be really happy to hear back from them at any point in time. So thanks for the opportunity again.
Wonderful. No, certainly we are confident this is going to help several artists. And so thank you so much for all the information that you shared and for your time today. I look
Thank
forward
you. Thanks.
to seeing you again once again on that. Thank you so much for all the
Thank you.
audience to being part of this event. All right. Thank you. You have a good day.
You.